Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social, and I'm back presenting. Todd, thank you for stepping in these last couple of weeks whilst I've been traveling or been at a trade show.
No problem at all.
Yeah, big thanks.
We had fun.
So this week we're going to do a questions and answers because it's been a bit of a slow news week. So ask us anything about watches in the comments. We've got a couple of things we could perhaps touch on to keep things flowing, but yeah, definitely let us please participate in the comments. We'd very much appreciate it. But before we kick off, should we do a wristwatch check? John, you're in the hot seat. Thanks for joining us. What are you wearing?
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for letting me on, Sam. Okay. I have got on my 2003 Seamaster Professional automatic James Bond one on a nice strap bracelet that I got off Sam. I think it's
nice.
Yeah, it's almost a one and done. That watch, it's really good.
Yeah, it looks great on that.
Yes,
piece of rice.
James Bond one. Love it.
Awesome. Mark, you're up next. What are you wearing?
And I have the Christopher Ward, if I can get it to focus.
Ooh, very nice. Ooh.
C7 Apex, which was done for the 5-year anniversary of SH21.
Very
and
nice.
From the back.
Oh, yeah.
Oof, that looks nice. Yes.
So this was the one they put forward for GPHG. They only made 50 of them. And there's a good chance, at least for me, that this is one of the best looking Christopher Wards they've ever done. I don't think they've ever come close. They've
very nice.
Perhaps made better watches, but not better looking ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
Mark, I saw you post that on Instagram the other day, and I'd never even heard of it. Is Apex, is that pretty much an anniversary only? Because they've made 2 after I did a little research.
Yeah, they made the C7, and then that was 2018. I think the C60 came out in 2019, and then the concept was a year later. But the concept made the Apex design language obsolete. So that was the skeleton.
Is that new to you, that Mark? That watch?
No, I've had that since it was announced. I've had it since 2018.
Oh wow!
And it was the one that set the serial number I try and get all the limited editions to.
Okay.
Since this was the first special one that I got, I try and get the same serial number every time I get a limited edition there.
Well, don't say it because I think that people will probably want it. People will probably try to get it.
If I do sell my C60 Apex, I'm really not saying what the serial number is.
Yeah, because someone will jinx it and end up buying it, just laughing and waving it in your face on the street.
Pete, what are you wearing?
Today I am wearing the
very nice.
There you go. JLC Polaris green dial.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Oh.
Handsome watch.
Nice and simple.
It's very deep green, that, isn't it? Very, very. It's a nice green. It's not an in-your-face green, is it?
Yeah, it's an impossible to really capture on. It's one of those watches where the green really depends on the light, but so it changes a fair bit. So yes, the green is really deep, and also the way it interacts with the lacquer dial gives it a real sense. It's almost like enamel, not quite, but very similar.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Patrick, what are you wearing?
Well, I'm double fisting a little bit today. On the wrist, I've got my Grand Seiko SBWA001, also known as the first spring drive, on a very unique and weird integrated bracelet. So just a fun one. And on the desk, I've got a new pocket watch that I just got. And it's one of my favorite pocket watches. It's the American watch grade pocket watch for the 1888. And it's just this gorgeous,
very nice,
very well, I don't know if I can get that there. It's a good light reflection on it. Just where it's got all that little pattern on there. Just a fun little watch. I picked that one up because I thought it was going to go for more, and I put in a low bid, and well, I guess my low bid turned out to be the high bid. So
wow, excellent.
So,
I like
nice
when that happens.
Sometimes
nice when you get lucky.
You didn't think you were going to win, and well, then I had to shell out some money I wasn't expecting to shell out.
Oh, yeah. Well, when your 3 watches come in, the Ingenieur and the Rolex and everything.
Yep, then I'm in trouble. Doghouse for a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd.
52 weeks.
I also wearing Christopher Ward. It's the C60 Trident Pro 600 GMT.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Nice. And then I'll go next. I'm wearing I've been wearing this all the time. This is I've been wearing the Seiko GMT, the quartz. But I've got a couple on the block here. Citizen lent me one of their Atisa watches. So this is a titanium quartz. It's one of their high-end quartz chronographs. I think the retail for about $1,000. This is all titanium with DLC coating. And then I also managed to pick up Casio re-released this. They're only $30. They re-released this watch, which is the reproduction of their twin graph one from the 80s. Well, for 80s through 90s. And I managed to pick one up.
That watch, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I'd do like a cheeky review on it. And this is the thing with Casio is they re-release some of their vintage ones, but they don't make you pay through the nose like Timex is doing. You know, Timex is like, oh, we re-release the Iron Man and make it $100, and it's like, okay. Whereas this was probably $30. This was probably $30 when it was originally released in the 80s. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
that's an amazing good price.
Yeah.
I went through high school with something very similar to that, but rather than have the small analog dial, it pretty much covered the whole of the dial, the AE11W, I think.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I've referenced that in the review because that was that the same one that you might not know this, but there was a film called 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, and he wore that watch that had it was LCD and it had the analog, and it had like a really crazy alarm where it sort of animated the alarm on the dial.
I can't remember the alarm, but it's but now you can find a new old stock for something like €650. So I don't think I'll be getting another one.
No, I don't. Well, maybe this is a good question. We've got some great questions actually coming in, but maybe this is a good question to kick off with. Has anybody bought a watch from their childhood and been disappointed? I have. But has anybody else done that where they've rebought a watch that they had as a kid? And
I've rebought a watch that I had when I was at university, but I'm definitely not disappointed with it.
You didn't go to you didn't go to Oxford, did you? And it was a Rolex.
Oh no.
This is not when I was a kid, but when I was 18-ish, I worked in retail and I worked at a department store, and I bought a Movado museum watch with my employee discount, and it was the most expensive watch I'd ever bought. And I kept it for about 24 hours and returned it because I didn't feel comfortable having a watch that expensive at the time. Oh, wow. Since then, I've been trying to buy that watch again, and I'm like, I still don't want to pay that much for that watch now that I know what that watch is about.
Yeah, I bought a couple of Casios. One that I definitely, one that I aspired to when I was a kid, and that was the original Pro Trek one, and I bought it. And then I keep flirting with. I had the TV remote one, the Casio one that used to have the TV remote control on it. I keep flirting with buying it, but then I'm like, because they say that about the Lamborghini Countach, don't they? That if you liked it as a kid, you should never drive it because
the guy from Top Gear did that and hated it. But yeah, one of them. It was
James May.
James May drove it and said, "Yeah, never meet your heroes." Now, there's one watch I'm after. When I was a kid, about 10 or 11, there was I had what? It was an LED one. It was black with and you press the button on the side and it lit up in LED. I don't know who made it, and it was the same one as Blake from Blake 7 wore. And I was a massive Blake 7 fan, so I happened to have it. I didn't buy it because of that. I just remember I got it for my birthday, like 10 or 11. I remember Blake 7. Suddenly Blake's got the same watch on as me. I don't know what happened to it. I can't remember what actual make it was. It's probably going to be Casio. I need to find it again. I do a search, but I can't really find the exact watch that he had. If I saw it, I just know it's just a black strap, black case, red LED. Like you just press the button on the side, and it just lit up the time and then went off, and that was all. That's all it did. But it was cool, and I want to buy that one. I want to buy it again, but I don't know. I don't know who made it. I can't remember having a make actually written on the dial anywhere or on the case anywhere.
Yeah,
if anyone's watching who remembers, who's my age, who's 57, who remembers Blake 7.
I remember Blake 7.
Yeah, so watch that Blake had. It probably would be Casio, but
Yeah.
I just want the watch. I want to buy it. I want to buy one of them.
Yeah, my want to, but I haven't bought is this old friend. So this is my first good watch, and it's a titanium Seiko Sportura.
That's a good watch.
I mean, surprisingly, it is.
All right,
But
okay. Wow.
what kills me about it is I sold it, and of course now it's worth about double what it was then. But it's one of the Eco Drive / Kinetic watches, which means it's got a capacitor that dies. So I know I would buy it and it would die in 10 years, and then I would have to spend a lot of money to bring it back. And I just can't, I don't think I can live with that. So like, I really want it, but it's almost like it's semi-disposable because I know it's going to die and then you have to pretty much recook it. And I just can't do the plunge.
I think, Patrick, you're leading us into one of the questions about when does the cost of watch servicing stop you actually doing it?
Yeah, actually, we're getting some great questions through. Before we get a couple of wristwatch checks. We've got a couple of Von Krul's wearing his GW 5000U, which is a G-Shock I definitely want to get hold of as well. Peter's wearing his 5600E1V. Mark's wearing his Junkers Flieger Titanium. Awesome. Cheers for joining us, Mark. So yeah, well let's go through them in order. We've got quite a few questions come through. So first up, question from me: how many hours on average do you all spend creating content for social media channels, including YouTube? I've always fancied reviewing watches on YouTube, but not made the plunge. Short answer: too many.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
It's an absolute grind.
I've decided I'm going to just start doing honest reviews, which means no research, no nuance, no complexity.
Reaction reviews.
Yeah, just nothing but error, and see if I can knock that out pretty quickly. But yeah, like you, I spend, if you include the time sort of sitting around thinking, what am I going to say? What's even worth talking about? Probably 20 hours on a watch review.
Yeah, it's the editor. In fact, I've just done this. I was. Thanks for the question. I wasn't trying to be flippant on it, but I just reviewed this watch today, and it took me, like you said, it took me 2 hours to write a script, which it won't sound like I'm reading from a script. And then filming it took me like 2 hours. I've been basically filming this one watch since 9 a.m. this morning, and we're at we're at 4 p.m. So up until like an hour before this, when I was prepping for this, I've been pretty much working on this one review all week, all day. So it takes a while, and I haven't even edited it yet.
That's why I don't do YouTube.
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents out there as the youngest YouTube member of the bunch, because I've only had the channel for a year and a half, and I've only really been monetized for 4 months. So, I said, I'm kind of new to the game. Maybe I'm the weirdo, but I don't write a script. I just pretty much talk. And, and my filming isn't too elaborate. It's mostly just either my face or showing what's in my hand. So I don't really have that much time in terms of the setup and the make, but the editing is just ungodly boring and ungodly time taking because, I have a full-time job. I take care of my kid when I'm not working a lot of the times because my wife has a full-time job. And, I'm pretty much every night for 2-3 hours sneaking in some editing here. And, we don't watch television shows anymore because I'm editing. And, it probably takes me the full week to edit. I mean, usually my Saturday post, I finish at about 2:00 in the morning on Friday. And so, as I said, it takes the whole week. And I will tell you, the money is not worth it. So you're not doing it for that reason. You're just doing it because you like it, and that's
you've got to love it. You've got to have a real passion for it. This is a question for I guess for Pete and for Patrick who make the content. Do you ever get when you're editing it? When you're watching something back, you're like, somebody's going to comment on this. Somebody is going to pick at the thing that I've said. I like expect it almost. The same with you, John. Sorry. You're like, yeah, I've said something, but I've made a bold statement there. Somebody's going to pick me up on it. But
I actually don't care what the audience thinks. So I never
I
think
care.
that.
Everyone. I care what you all think.
But
Yeah.
I care deeply that I'm saying what I want. So one of the things that really gets me is when I'm doing the edit and I go, that's not quite what I meant.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
you've just lost 50 subs, by the way. I've just watched them drop.
that's okay.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't care what other YouTubers think. So why would I care what my audience thinks?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to chime in from the perspective is that my whole full-time job is video producer, and I gave up on doing YouTube videos and just jumped on Sam's bandwagon. That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
It's
you
too
don't
much
want to be
work.
doing your full-time job. So, when I fix
Yeah.
computers, that's why I loathe it when somebody rings me up and says, "Will you help me fix my computer?" I think, what do I do as a job? I fix computers. What I don't want to do as a hobby? Fix computers.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So next question up, and this is actually Blake, not from Blake 7, but when would the price to maintain a watch be not worth it? Also, what would cause the price increase? For example, fixing a car after exceeding the miles or number of years. So, Patrick, this is half led into your actual kinetic one, but I suppose the first question is, when would the price to maintain a watch not be worth it? I actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the prices are. I mean, is
Well,
it
I mean-
800 quid for an Omega? What would it do for a full service with that? With that Omega with the
For
bracelet and everything.
the last time I checked, I think it was about 550 for a non-chronograph. A chronograph is 750, and precious metal is a little bit more than that. Those are US prices.
Right. What happens if you had what happens if you had a vintage bracelet, the old pins and collet bracelet? Luckily mine was done on my Seamaster when I got it, but they're because be quite expensive, aren't they, to do the bracelet?
I've never done it. At least Omega are fairly upfront and honest about their service prices. You have to hunt on their website for the information, but it is there and it is pretty clear what they're charging you.
Okay, that's good.
So that Christopher Ward, I think it's about 150 £4 for a service.
Yeah.
A quartz tends, when they get the quartzes back, they seem to automatically change the movement for some reason. So a quartz service can cost you more. You send it in for a battery and they go, "Oh yeah, we got to change the movement." So
why would you send it in for a battery? Why couldn't you do a battery yourself?
Some of their analog quartz, it's kind of hard to get to the battery and fix it.
Oh, is it right?
It's like G-Shock, isn't it? You have to send a G-Shock.
Well, if you want to maintain the water resistance, but I think you can look up the Christopher Ward service costs as well. The only thing with Christopher Ward, if you've got, say, an SH21, it's going to Switzerland, so that's guaranteed to be 8 to 10 weeks before you get it back.
Yeah,
I can't imagine delete being a lot.
That's the.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that last part is actually really important there, Mark. I think a lot of people focus on the cost of a service, but they lose track of the time.
Yep.
So if you've got some of the really fancy watches, if you've got something like a Parmigiani and it needs a service, or God forbid it's got something wrong with it, you could be without that watch for a year.
Yeah, I just had my Speedmaster Mark II serviced, and I gave it to them in early February, and I got it back yesterday. And that's Omega USA servicing it in Seattle, I believe.
Yeah, that's where I set mine.
And as they get older, it gets tricky. So I had like a 90 Speedmaster reduced, like one of the 39 millimeter models. And my local watchmaker is brilliant. This guy comes old school, knows how to do watches, but like to find those parts took forever. He sourced some parts from a guy who had them in Abu Dhabi, like in a safe somewhere, and he had it for like 6 months or so. And as it gets older, it gets trickier to source those parts.
Yeah, it's somebody.
Everyone who bought an in-house movement is going to pay for it in a couple of years.
Well, like with Universal, like some of the Universal Geneves are like almost impossible, aren't they? Somebody at work actually sent me a picture. They were at they're at a friend's house, and this friend had a vintage Seiko, one of the vintage Seiko chronographs, at the bullhead. And he said, "Oh, how much do you think this is worth?" And I said, "Well, it depends whether it's serviced or not." I said, "It's probably worth 300 unserviced." And he said to me, he says, "Oh, the guy says he's going to get it serviced and then, he'll sell it." And I said to him, I was like, "Dude, there's like 5 people in the US that can do that could service that watch. So I tell him not to get it serviced, because if he doesn't know who these 5 people are, and it won't be serviced within any, it's many, many months to get one of those serviced by this team that know it." So, I mean, this is what puts me off some like vintage watches, actually, the complexity of getting them serviced. But yeah, I mean, I suppose this one is just to your point, isn't it, Patrick? Also, what would cause the price increase? And you just mentioned about that kinetic that you had that just became not worth it for you.
The short answer to Blake for me is it just depends on how much you love the watch. And if the watch is truly a special piece, I think that's why you buy that watch, and then you can pay for it and maintain it because it means something. And I'll make some people mad, but I mean, that's why, to me, let's say like a Rolex isn't that special, because it's not unique. It's everywhere. To me, that would be the watch that I would keep for 10 years. And then maybe instead of servicing it, sell it.
Yeah.
Because you could
Exactly.
sell it and then buy a new one. Like for me, personal experience, I've got a Skydweller. Now it's the old discontinued model. I hate that word so much. Discontinued just means it's the old model. They've now made it better with a better movement, better like shape, whatever. There's nothing better about the old Skydweller. But, dumbasses out there will call it discontinued, and that makes it supposedly more valuable. That's garbage. But if I get the new one, I will happily sell my old one, because there's nothing special about that watch. I love it, but there's nothing special. For, let's say, like that Sportura that I sold a long time ago, I kind of didn't know how special it was when I bought it. I mean, I went on a cruise ship when I was a teenager, and I saw that watch, and I thought it was cool. Now I found out that it's like crazy, not common, and has a pretty cult following of all things. And I bought it for $1,500, and the service cost was going to be $910, and this was 20 years ago. And that's when I said, no, I just can't do that. But now they're selling the watch for $4,000, $5,000 sometimes in good condition, so maybe it was worth it. But that's where it kind of does come just down to love. And if you've got something special and you love it, I think it's worth the cost.
Great
As soon
point.
as I got that Omega back, I traded it for a Tudor.
Yeah. Next question we've got from Martin was, I want to sell my Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue because having no date is just getting to me. Anyone else? This isn't my question. I don't know, Martin.
Are you
Martin,
sure?
welcome.
You paid him.
We are not
planted question.
we are not in cahoots here, Martin. I sold the Black Bay 58 because it didn't have the date. Like I just
you need
couldn't.
help.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I'm the same. So, but I guess the question is maybe not the date, but has anyone else sold a watch because
I've sold a chronograph because it didn't have a running seconds.
It
had other issues, like one of the hands was a black dial. One of the hands was black against a black dial, so you had no clue what it was actually saying. But yeah, I've sold a chronograph because it didn't have a running seconds. That was the principal reason.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have not done it, but I laugh every time I hear people once again talk about how great the AP Royal Oak Jumbo is. The original doesn't have a seconds hand. That would annoy the crap out of me. So I don't get it. I would never own that watch, even if you gave it to me. I'd sell it, but I would never.
Then next, so thank you, Martin, for the question. That wasn't a plant, but that is the question of the question of the evening so far.
Yeah.
Watch Beginner says, I currently own 8 watches. I want to reduce this to just 4 really good quality pieces. I don't want to keep watches that I don't really wear. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, I mean, I know everybody knows my answer. Probably, I would just sell the ones that you don't wear. But there's many opinions, so I will. I'll pass it over. Pete, go on. You can kick this off.
It all depends what kind of collector you are, even if you even consider yourself a collector.
Yeah.
So if you consider yourself a collector, and that you're building something, then why take 4 steps backwards unless those 4 watches aren't going to be part of your collection in the long run? On the other hand, if you're not a collector, you're what I'd call a wearer, and all you do is wear watches, then flog them off. And ask yourself, why did you buy them in the first place? But then again, that's just me. I don't understand buying stuff that you know you're going to sell.
What happens if you're both
Yeah.
a wearer and a collector?
Well, you
Yeah.
collect.
Then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Although
I am in
what
trouble.
it comes down, although maybe it comes down to like I've got watches that I would say I wear, but I've got 50 watches. So even if I wore one every day, you would go 2 months without being worn. So I call that wearing it. If I wear a watch every 2 to 3 months, I'm wearing the watch. So maybe that's how you put it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say by
I mean-
default, if collector's in there, if you're a wearer and a collector, means you're a collector. You're going to hold on to watches, But I have 5 or 6 that are regular wear, and then all the rest are just for fun.
I must admit, I do try and rotate through my collection. So I'm probably not a wearer collector. I'm more a wearer hoarder.
Okay, I think you and me are the same, Mark.
Yeah, I get irritated by having a lot of watches that I don't wear. Like there's something. I'm just weird, like where I get not irritated, but agitated by it. I'm like, oh god, they're not getting anywhere, these ones, and then I'll get a new watch and I'll just wear the hell out of it. I mean, I'm rotating between this and the Rolex at the moment. So, but anyway,
as long as I've got a place to put it, I'm perfectly happy with it. So a good watch box, a good winder, something where you can store it. If they're just randomly like sitting out, that would annoy the crap out of me. But as long as they've got a cubby. But my question back to Watch Beginner would be, when you say you've got 8 and you want to get down to 4 really good, are 4 of your 8 really good and you're just selling off extra? Because if you're selling off extra, I'd say keep them. If you're going to sell all 8 so that you then have enough money to buy 4 good, then I'd say sell them.
And if you're in the US, remember the tax changes, where any purchase over $600 is now on your 1099K. So be careful. You can get a tax bill. You can get an unexpected tax bill if you start selling too many.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting at the tax season. Yeah, because I think I've probably, I hopefully will have sold more than 600 worth. But anyway,
I don't rotate watches. I just pick them randomly. Just say what I'm going to wear today, and just look at the box and think, that looks good, and just grab it. I mean, there'll be so much. Don't actually have a look in for ages because I've just grabbed them.
You just don't fancy it. Yeah. So, Aaron's Watches says, has anybody backed to Kickstarter that they still love and still have? So there is a Kickstarter that I do love, but I don't have it, but I gave it to a friend, so I don't know if that counts. But go on, Mark.
I've backed 3 Kickstarters. One of them I received and moved on within about 15 minutes. One of them never funded. And then I bought a Chronotechna, one of the ultimate black watches. And I still have it, still wear it, still like it. It's a very good watch.
Okay.
And it's a way of getting a super black dial without paying Moser money. So it's a really unusual watch. Very cool.
I wonder if I think David just the watch, maybe, I don't know if it was that one, was it, that he reviewed recently? But it had the super, like, almost like a Vanta black.
Yeah.
dial.
Well, there seem to be 3 technologies for getting super black. There's Vanta Black, which is Surrey Nanosystems / Moser, Vatna Black, which is a similar technology, different material. And then Boulder was doing Musuo Black, which is a very, very absorptive black paint that's a lot cheaper. So there's 3 ways to do it, and 3 or 4 companies doing it now.
Yeah. The brand I was talking about was Walbrook, by the way, but anybody else?
Yeah, I got 2. I got a Fantasos Triclops, which is like an Uber copy. You know the one?
I remember that
one. It's all right. I got blue one. I still like it. It's good. It's probably not as good as the one that you got the other day, Sam. You got sent the copy. That's pretty good. Not as good, still good. And I also got a Vario 1918 trench watch, which is really nice as well. That's a really, really nice one. I wear that quite a bit.
Oh, nice.
I've kept some of them both. Yeah.
It's too bad Dave's not here because he has a bunch of Kickstarter watches. He loves those.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Yeah, never bought a Kickstarter watch, so I can't contribute to this one.
Me either.
I don't think I'm going to buy another, but of the three, the one I've got and kept was definitely worth that. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah. Okay. So next one we've got up here. Barasic Time says, so question, at what SRP level does Seiko become too expensive to risk buying sight unseen in case it suffers the dreaded misalignment feature? I don't know. I mean, this is misaligned in two places. Does that mean it's aligned? No, it actually is misaligned. In the bezel and the chapter ring are misaligned. I don't know with Seiko. I mean, I think you just have to roll the dice, don't you?
I don't buy brand new Seikos. I buy second-hand ones. I buy vintage ones if I can because I think they're quite cheap and I love vintage Seiko.
Yeah, I get irritated. I said irritated again. I get agitated at the thought of buying any Seiko mechanical watch that is over $500. I don't like doing unless it's like getting to Grand Seiko level. I love Seiko quartz, and I think also there's bargains to be had below 500. But in that thing where they're using like the 4R35, the 6R35, I have just been burnt a number of times by buying those watches. Either they magnetized or they lost a lot of time because there's a lot of people are like, oh, my Seiko runs like to COSC standards, but if you really look at it, they have those movements have poor positional accuracy so they might be like 2 seconds on one side, but you flip it over. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. If somebody else want to answer this question, I don't want to upset any Seiko fans.
I'm with you. I'm a Seiko fan, but I feel like 500 is sort of the threshold,
until you get to Grand Seiko.
Because
I'm a Seiko fan, and 500 is my threshold, but I don't buy anything less than that.
Okay.
I think that Seiko pin their design and build quality to their movements in a way. So as you move up through the movements, the finishing so if you go from a 4R to a 6R to an 8, so forth, the designs get more complex, the finishing gets better. And for me, the finishing and design of all 4R and below movements is subpar, and I won't buy it. Yeah. So if it's not, it's 6R and up for me. I don't care. I don't care about accuracy. So
yeah, I mean, I get an AL35.
It wasn't accuracy. It was more of a QR question, I think.
And even like I've shown people 100 times how you fix misalignment problems. You just turn the bezel.
This is not a real how-to. Yeah, I don't know. I get wobbly about Seikos. I mean, I would spend 700. I mean, I think it did cost me 500, but I would spend up to 700 on a quartz. And probably I would spend even more. I would buy a Grand Seiko quartz for sure. But anyway. Okay.
Kent's right. It's QC, not QR. I misspoke.
Yeah. Let's see. Have we got? You'll have to keep adding these questions. So next, we've got one. Okay, so. Oh, yeah. So I don't know if this is a troll comment for Pete, but it says everything Pete says is right, and if you have an opinion different than him, you are wrong. In fact, Pete doesn't know why people watch live streams.
I was watching someone's video the other day, and I found myself, why is anyone watching this?
Which video of mine was that?
No, it wasn't. It was one of Brit's. I'm thinking, why is anyone listening to this?
And you
like there's a certain joy in the train wreck.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm going to get really snarky. I got a snarky video ready to go, and it's a watch YouTuber decoder, and it's going to be what a watch YouTuber is really saying when he says, A, this is an honest review. What a YouTuber is really saying when he describes himself as an expert. And what a YouTuber is really saying when he says that a watch crushed it and or killed it.
Oh, I got to see that video. That's going to be fun.
It's Sympathy for the Bezel actually said he mentioned Mayan. I backed Mayan as a Kickstarter, and they are. I mean, the Kickstarter was wobbly. The Kickstarter was a wobbly one, but you could see where they were going. But I know a couple of other reviewers who have reviewed Mayan, and they see. I knew they were going to do well, and they've done well. So David from Glenbrook says, "Here's a question: Why is Rolex so obviously an Omega?"
A troll question.
Yeah. I would say there is around about, doing maths in my head, there's about 2 billion Swiss francs a year reasons why Rolex is better than Omega. And that's essentially that Rolex can spend on marketing each and every year the entire turnover of Omega, perhaps the entire turnover of the Swatch Group.
That's an interesting. I mean, I'm a Rolex fan, but also I'm an Omega fan as well, so I can't say. Next. Oh, here you go, Pete. There's a follow-up. James is asking, most important, what does a YouTuber really mean when he says, it's just my opinion?
Oh, what he means is he cannot support it in any way, shape, or form. He has no idea why he's saying this, but he wants to just say it anyway.
Yeah.
It means he's lazy and lacks any self-reflection.
Yeah, I actually put I've started putting at the end of every one of my reviews now that this was my review, but let me know what you. But more importantly, what do you think? Because I just offer. This is just me reviewing it and my thoughts. This is more than. But it's funny because the time teller, he's still not that he's boring, but I like the time teller. But he's still on this Chopard dial that looks like a bumhole. So I would watch it. For some reason, he's trying to like garner more people to agree with him, but nobody seems to be agreeing with him, so that's his opinion on Chopard dials.
Well, opinions are like bumholes, and everybody's got one. So that's it.
But not everybody's got a Chopard.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I think actually almost no one has an opinion. What they have are prejudices and beliefs parading as opinions.
What? Hey, another merch idea. Like, where's the t-shirt ideas? Like, we're getting one a week here. Okay, so moving swiftly on. Jeremy says, has any brand gone up market and lost you as a potential customer? Like, has any indie band gone mainstream and you're like, oh, you used to be cool when you were independent? Has any brand lost you because they've gone up market?
There's never an Oris fanboy when you want one, is there?
Is that the one? Is it? Here we go. Year of the butthole dial. But more importantly, I mean, I don't know whether has any brand gone up market and lost?
Seiko and Oris are probably the two that.
Yeah, I suppose
most
that middle,
immediately
where Seiko are doing that.
Price elasticity when you're in the $500 to $2,000 range is a scary concept. You know, when Seiko made that shift upwards, I don't know how much of the noise was real noise, but they certainly upset a lot of people when they went from SKX to Seiko 5.
Yeah, there has been. I personally, no, I can't think. I've sort of been staring off into the distance, running through brands. I can't think of any, but Seiko and Oris are ones where I have seen people are put off. Seiko especially, there's so many, sort of, what is it? Orient is the new Seiko videos and comment threads out there. Who else has gone up? I think Longines is going up market, but only in bits and pieces. So I don't think they're probably not losing anyone. Tag the same, they're kind of going up market, but at the same time they are keeping a lot of their cheaper stuff. So
But there are smaller brands like Fairer Universal that are creeping up and seeming to get away with it. No one's really complaining. They are shifting their prices. They used to be at or below Christopher Ward, and now
Yeah.
they've leapt up, and they
I
seem,
think-
no one seems to complain.
And I think possibly the reason why Farrah will get away with it is because they've never made a song and dance. To my knowledge, I've never really read it in their materials about, our USP is our value.
Yeah.
Their USP is their designs and what they look like.
And color, use of color.
Yeah. Whereas I think, for example, Christopher Ward would really struggle to move up market after they've spent so much effort being a value brand. It would be very much turning on your base customer.
Well,
I think they're making a good move though, because they're slowly moving their entry level price points up. But they're still saying this watch though is still well below the comparable watch. That would be like with this new integrated bracelet one, they're still beating everybody else at a price point, but it's a $1,300 watch when their entry level watch used to be a $600 watch. So
I'm not saying they can't move. I'm just saying that they have to move in these tiny little steps.
Yeah, they are.
And even that the 12. Correct me. I'm not that much of a Christopher Ward fan, so correct me. But don't they offer one of those that's only about $600?
No,
on a break.
The cheapest is like $850 on a rubber strap.
Yeah, the cheapest is either $850 or is a stainless steel on a rubber that just about comes in under $1,000.
But that's $850. Yeah, I was going to say that's £850, not $850.
Yeah, I think it's
American
$9. It's very close to being $1,000 delivered to the US.
Yeah. So Canadian Watch Monkey is saying Christopher Ward prices are creeping up for sure, and then he says Circa out of France is a bit pricey. I think they're a bit pricey actually as well. But anyway.
Unpopular opinion, Rolex.
But is it lost? You've got your name on the list for one. That's not lost you as a buyer.
Well, it's true, but I'm almost at the top of where I would consider buying a Rolex because, I that's what my video was about. Was I can justify it because I know I'm not lying to myself that it's an overpriced watch. But that Submariner cost $11,000. That watch doesn't deserve to be $11,000. I mean, it's a standard dive watch case with a good but not like beyond excellent movement. I mean, when you start to get into the $15,000 price tag, which they're getting there with that Yachtmaster and other things, you can buy a hell of a lot of better watch for that price. And I'm almost to the point that if 5 years from now, if we have a 5% jump each year, it's gonna be like, I don't want one. I'll buy something else.
Yeah, that Submariner isn't worth double and more the price I get of a Tudor, I don't know, Black Bay or whatever. I don't think it is. Anyhow, you pay for the name. I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of exactly it. It's no different than buying an LV purse for your wife. I mean, that leather is just leather. You're paying for a name.
Yeah,
that watch is just a watch, and you're paying for a name. And if you're okay with that, as I said, I'm okay with that to a point, but they're getting close to where, at that point I would jump ship to a different brand.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is Colin Buzzard says, "Hi gents, one movement for one watch which you choose for one and done. PS, nice to see John." So what I guess the question is like, what if you could only pick one watch, what movement would you want in it? If you had a one and done watch, what movement would you go for?
The 321 movement in the Ed White Speedmaster.
Okay, Pete, can you pick one?
If I'm going to pick one watch, and it's going to be the watch I have forever, Breitling Super Ocean with a derivative of an SW300. And if you want to know why, go rewind this and go back to when we were talking about servicing.
Yep.
That 321, you're going to lose it for a year. If you own that for 20 years, for 10% of the time, you won't even have the watch in your hand.
True.
Yeah,
true.
That's interesting. I mean, I immediately thought of spring drive, I'd like to have a watch with a spring drive in it. But going back to that servicing, if it was one and done, like, would I be able to get the spring drive serviced? So, yeah, maybe.
Spring drive really isn't that expensive. I sent one of my Cradors over, and I mean, it's an older spring drive, and I forget what the total cost was, but the polish and everything was, I think under 700. So it wasn't.
How long was it gone?
The service wasn't that bad, but I wanted to order a new because it came on an unoriginal bracelet. The bracelet took a year, and they asked me. They said, "Do you want us to ship you the watch separate, or do you want to wait for the bracelet?" And I said, "You can ship it separate." And so I think the service took about 5 months, but the bracelet took a year.
I mean, if you wanted a movement that you probably never have to worry about, something with a Citizen A010 or A060, one of the high accuracy quartz eco drive movements. I mean, one, they're epic movements. Two, what is it? The super cap is going to last for 15 years, and by the way, it runs when it fails. So
I'm with Pete, but on a different tangent. I'm we're coming to the end of an era when it comes to Tudor. I'm one of the Tudors with an ETA movement in it because of the same thing Pete said. I want to be able to take my watch and take it to my local watchmaker and get it serviced. But I think we're about to see everything in Tudor be in-house. And I love Tudor, but I don't want to pay those prices.
It depends whether you're talking about practicality and cost of servicing or something as a movement that looks great.
Practicality for me.
And if you're wearing them and wearing them on a regular basis, running them till they die, then absolutely right. But you see some beautiful movements. Excuse me. You see some beautiful movements that are art pieces that you'd love to have, but they're never going to be practical.
Yes.
Yeah. So next question up. Oh, actually, I didn't ask Patrick. Did everybody answer that, John?
No, I didn't answer it. I'd have to say two. I'd have to say a 321 Ed White, 100%. But also, if not, CWC quartz.
Oh yeah, like ETA quartz.
It's just like just fantastic. It just runs forever. Or maybe the Bulliver. Actually, the Bulliver. The high frequency quartz.
Oh yeah, the UHO.
Oh, yeah, those are nice.
That is a superb movement. That is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one, if I had to pick one, probably again, it would be the 321 because it's an amazing watch, an amazing movement, and I suppose, I'd lose it for a year while they sent it off. But I thought love it again. It's like a new watch every time you get it back.
Yeah, and I met somebody who's had an Ed White since the 70s. I think a 321 since got it as a graduation gift off somebody, and I think it was pre-owned then. So. But anyway,
but it's for a movement that has its roots in 1942 or possibly before, and it's still handmade today. Sort of the emotional part, and I try not to do that around movements. But if I had one, that's exactly why.
So next question up here, I guess it's counter to the other one. So Homeworker said, has any brand gone down market and gained you as a customer? I always liked Oaks and Junior aesthetic, but thought they were overpriced, but liked their new serial offerings.
Down market and gained a customer.
Yeah, or made enough more affordable.
Whole milk. Let me tell you a story. So I really liked Oaks and Junior, but I don't like them after the shakeup to their CEO business about a year and a half ago. So whoever the original CEO was, I think they were a little bit more in tune. A new guy jumped in, and supposedly he's a bigwig too. But I was in back and forth with them because they were actually going to make me a custom watch, and they quoted me a price, and then they said a whoopsie daisy and came back and said, we messed up in our quote, and pretty much wanted to charge me probably 1/3 of the total price of the watch for that mess up. Wow. And I was just like, dear God, I mean, how could you screw up so bad that, the machining cost was going to cost, let's just make up some numbers and say they quoted me 10 grand originally. And then they were like, now it's going to be 15 grand. And I was like, so I walked away, and I've never looked back. I think they're cool watches, but I they now just have a bitter, sour taste to me. So I'm on team no, thank you.
Yeah, I can't think of another brand. Has there been another sort of brand that's made a more affordable version or like an entry level version? I can't think of one.
I can think of it's now. This is
Breitling, maybe?
all depends on your definition of affordable. But Vacheron Constantin, when they brought out the 56, that was a watch that using a Cartier movement, not with Geneva seal or that sort of thing. That was an interesting one in that, to answer the question, the brand came very close to getting me as a customer. I really liked that watch. And then that watch became really immediately something of a hype watch, and now you can't buy it at retail. So that's about the only one I can think of, which personally I thought, I could see that as an entry into a brand. No, Breitling's gone completely the other way. They've just got more expensive.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Endurance actually, but I haven't bought one, so I suppose that kind of defeats that argument there. But anybody else? I can't think of another example actually.
No, I can't think of one either.
Yeah. Let's see. We need. So Mark's just saying that Omega and Breitling prices have risen markedly in the past few years, and that's true. So keep the questions coming. I'm just going to double check here that we've.
I think there was a question about the Seamaster SMP, particularly in green.
Yeah, the green. Yes, that's right.
Okay, can you remember? I must have missed that one. Sorry, everyone. What was it?
I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'm afraid.
We just have a quick look through.
Was it something to do with? I guess was it just to add in the an opinion on it?
Someone's asking about the watch. Hang on, let me just flick through and just.
So what do you think about the Seamaster SMP, particularly the green? But I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Whoever it was, maybe comment again.
Here we go. CEK Watch, Chris. Thoughts on the Omega SMP 300, particularly with the green dial, 10:01 p.m. If you want to bring it up.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to say who owns this, but somebody owns this on the panel, and I wasn't. I didn't love it when I saw it.
Well, I don't do green dials. I don't like particularly green dial watches.
I will plead guilty to being the owner of it. It's a watch. I think if you're not sure about the green dial, you have to see the green dial. I was very, very unsure about it. Because you hear about it, and they were up until very recently extremely hard to find. Now they're trickling into boutiques and ADs, so you have the opportunity to see it. It changes its character very much whether you have it on the strap or the bracelet.
Yeah.
And also it changes its character very much depending on the lighting. It can look almost like a black dial, or it can look like a deep green, like a forest green, depending on the lighting. They've done something very clever by only having white text on the dial. I like it, but I would say for more than any of the current Seamasters, that's the one you have to see and see if you can live with the dial.
Yeah, I saw it on the bracelet. Maybe that was it. I bet it would really popped on the green.
Yeah, Mark. Just in case you feel like you're getting beat up, I love your watch. I think that on the rubber strap is great.
Oh no! I mean, the only chance I get beaten up is if the other half found out.
Yeah, I think with the Omega, I personally love it. But I think what it comes down to is, a lot of people look at a watch and it's almost like they're assessing, would I want to wear this every day? And if they look at it and they go, I'd hardly ever want to wear this, then it's a watch they don't want. Other people look at watches and say, is there going to be a day where this is the perfect watch and this is the watch I want? That's how they pick their watch. If you're in that first camp where you're thinking, I want to be able to wear this watch 3 out of 4 days, then the green dial SMP is probably not for you. if on the other hand, you're happy to say once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, nothing is going to be better than this watch, and that's enough to buy it, then buy this watch.
Yeah, maybe that's part of my journey with watch collecting and why I sort of buy and sell them is because every watch that I go for, I think, is this the one watch? You know, is this the one watch that I could live with if something happened? I don't buy ones like that. That for an occasion. I wouldn't buy a dress watch for an occasion, for example.
Yeah, I do find that's sort of one of the great divides is do people, I'm always stunned when people have collections of 10 versatile, go anywhere, do anything watches. It's like, what's the point of that? But some people seem to just get off on that. So
yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I think every single watch that I buy, I'm like, could this be the watch that if all of my other watches, if I had to sell all my other watches, could I live with this forever? And that's how I approach every single one. I don't have a watches for like specific utilities, for example. I mean, other than the gym watch, other than the Garmin, of course, which is a gym watch. But other than that, I don't have ones for a specific occasions. Although I do think about,
I have watches that are more likely to be worn at weddings and funerals compared to others, but otherwise I'll, I just wear them. So, but there are specific watches that are much more likely to be worn at formal events than others.
Yeah. I mean, maybe my Rolex is the one exception because when I was traveling a couple of weeks ago, I went to California. I thought, we might be going to the beach, and that was the only thing where I was like, well, I better not take the Rolex just in case that happens. But any of the others wouldn't have been a problem really, I suppose, except for the vintage speed timer. But
yeah, whereas like I said, I've got a lot of watches, and now the number one rule I have is there's not allowed to be any overlap between a watch I own and a watch I buy. So
that's interesting.
Why would I buy a watch that is like just a version of another watch I already own? What's the point?
Wow.
I don't know.
You only have one dive watch then? So you only have one dive watch?
No, because they're wildly different dive watches.
Okay.
A JLC Polaris has nothing in common with a bronze Breitling Super Ocean.
Cool. So you've only got 140 mil black dialed dive watch then.
Yeah,
I don't think I've got a 40 mil black dialed dive watch.
Well, blue maybe.
On your list, then.
Wow.
Something to buy.
That's a little too vanilla.
Yeah, but Pete, I'm kind of on the same thing in terms of almost brands. I really only almost want one watch from each brand. So, the Omega World, I wouldn't buy a Speedmaster, a Seamaster, this, that. At that point, it's like, okay, I'm too Omega saturated. I really just want Omega's best watch. And then I want to move on to the next brand, like Zenith, and get their watch. Because I would rather have something completely a different flavor than something kind of in the same mix.
Yeah, and it's funny because I do actually associate with brands. So, but I like a brand that can give me variety. So like if I look at Breitling, 13 different collections, 13 different watches. Whereas you look at Rolex, 13 different collections, one watch in different colorways.
Todd, your watches are all utility, aren't they? Sort of utility tool watches, or the majority of collection tool watches.
I would say the majority is tool watches, but I do have a number of what I would call like dress watches that I wear specifically for dress occasions, or when I'm wearing a suit or whatever, that I'll switch into those watches. So I don't know. And I'm also a little bit like Pete was describing. I have several Gata watches, but I like to be able to mix up the look, the color of the dial or whatever. So, I do like to have watches that I feel I can get in any situation, but the dress watches kind of get a pass, but they still make me nervous if, it's starting to rain. And I'm wondering, is this going to be, I put it in my pocket then.
I think my definition of a tool watch is can it stand being outside on a summer's day with 6 layers of sunscreen? Because sunscreen is far more aggressive than any water resistance test.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. We have to wear it quite a lot in Florida, and getting it on the car, on the vinyl on the car.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. How do people define tool watch? What is a tool watch for you?
Ooh, that's it. That's a whole topic. That should be a top. That needs to be a topic.
Good question.
That's something for next Sunday, because
and
we're going to have a real argument about that.
I'll join you on that, because I have what I believe are pretty good tool watches. So.
Yeah, I've got a very clean definition of a tool watch.
I'm waiting. I think we should definitely have a separate program on that. So don't spoil it now with a
No.
I don't know, John, why you'd even bother, because we've already established that if Pete's got the opinion, it's correct. So
well, of course it is.
9 out of 10 people. 9 out of 10 people in the audience confer. 9 out of 10 comments. Somebody just, I don't know, this just came in. If you break the date complication, does it affect anything else in the watch?
Particularly if it's an Omega chronograph.
yeah, I didn't know that. Like a normal Seiko. I mean, if I guess if the gear is broken, the teeth that wind that actually advance the disc forward, it's not going to affect the timekeeping, is it? You're probably just going to get a little click. But I can't think. I've never had a watch where the date that's a lie. I did send one back where the date complication was messed up, but anyway, awesome. Well, any last thoughts, anyone? That was some great questions. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
in the
well,
audience.
good questions. Yeah. Thanks.
That was really fun.
Any last thoughts? Okay, well, everyone, thank you so much for watching and being active in the comments. Very much appreciated. And thank you, everyone who subscribed recently. If you're new to the channel, I got over 20,000 subs, which was awesome. So big thanks to everyone that subscribed recently. And we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Live. Thanks, everyone.
See everybody.
See you soon.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.